Okay, guys, so in our last lesson on paraphrasing, we talked about paraphrasing words. So let's review some of the vocabulary that we had from that. That first one, what is paraphrasing? And you said it's putting it into my own words, and a synonym might be rewording. And we made the sentence, I paraphrased what the bully said because I couldn't say the actual words. And here's a picture that someone drew. Awesome artistry. For the sake of time, I'm going to imagine you guys to just pretend that I have graphic organizers for the next 3 words that they want us to review before we do the lesson. And then we move on. So why is today important? Well, today we're going to follow up on our paraphrasing words with paraphrasing phrases. In the big picture here, we're getting towards being able to paraphrase paragraphs. So today, what I'd like you to do is just listen carefully, follow along, do your best. You guys are going to participate in the discussion a little bit later on, and then you're going to do some examples on your own like you did with the words. So here we go. What is a phrase? Well, a phrase is just a small group of words that has a meaning. For instance, wooden house. Well, what does that mean? Or how else could we say that? A house that's made of wood. Good. So remember, good readers break down sentences into smaller parts or chunks or phrases, and then we change the words a little bit in our head or paraphrase, and that helps us to understand that phrase and the sentence as a whole, and that's going to help us with paragraphs later on too. So if we look at this, we need to make sure that it's correct. So what does that mean if I make sure that it's correct? Yeah, it has to mean the same thing as the first phrase. And then in my own words. Well, am I going to always be able to change every word when I'm paraphrasing? No, probably not. There are going to be some tricky ones that we'll have to keep, and that's okay, but we want to change as many as we can. And then we want to make sure that it makes sense. And I'll show you how to do that too. So we're going to do the same thing we did for phrases as we did with words. And so here's our first one. The first thing I do, I just read that phrase, lovely sketches. And then in my head, I think about a sentence that I can make with that. So how about, the artist was selling some lovely sketches. And now what I'm going to do in my head, I'm thinking, how can I change that into my own words? How can I say that in my own words? So how about, I'm going to pick pretty drawings. Does that make sense? So the way we tell if it's correct is we put it back in that sentence. So I could say, instead of saying the artist was selling some lovely sketches, I would say the artist was selling some pretty drawings. So did I replace the original phrase? Yeah, I said pretty drawings instead of lovely sketches. Does it make sense in the sentence? Yeah, I think it does. So let's do a couple more. The phrase is beside my mother. My sister likes to sit beside my mother. So I could change that to next to our mom. And if I plug that back in, I could say my sister likes to sit next to our mom. Make sense? So I said the word, I put it into a sentence, then I changed the words into my own, and then I put those words back in the sentence to make sure it makes sense. So last one that you'll see me do. If the phrase is along the avenue, how about I like to walk along the avenue? And then in my head I think, how can I change those words into my own? So I could say down the street. And notice the is still in there. I didn't change the, and I think that's okay. We're not going to be able to change every word every time. So down the street, or I could say down my street, and then we plug it back into the sentence. I like to walk down my street, or down your street, which would be weird, but that's okay. So learn by sharing. Who would like to read this first one? Dylan. The giant automobile. Good reading. So who next we put it into a sentence, right? So Christine, can you put that into a sentence for us? Okay, my mom drove the giant automobile. Jacob, how about you paraphrase that? You take it into your own words. Okay, a huge van. He changed every word. He got specific instead of automobile, and now we have a van. And then Vanessa, will you plug that back into our original sentence? Okay, so my mom drove a huge van. Nice job. And so we could write that down there. So we made sure it was correct by plugging it into the sentence. Is it in our own words? Yeah, we changed every word. And then, oh gosh, does it make sense? Oh, is it correct? Is it in my own words and does it make sense? So we would do the same thing for a chilly wind and a frightening event. If you get stuck, that's okay to look back. I'm going to leave this up as you guys are doing your own, so you know that the criteria, what these boxes mean here. So here is yours, the learn by practicing. How am I going to be graded? Well, you get 1 point for each. I'd like for you guys to do your best and use this. Make sure that it's correct in your own words and makes sense. So after they're done with that, we would do the wrap up, which is to review the things that it says to review, like what is a phrase, what are the 3 characteristics of a good paraphrase, and how can paraphrasing help you? And that would be our wrap up. So hope you enjoyed that.